Welcome to the 7 Cents Podcast, where we go beyond dollars and cents to unlock the mindset beyond the money.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Mike Macklin, aka Money Mike, the financial Thanos, because I'm snapping my fingers and I'm turning your financial problems to dust.
And I'm Coach RL, your money mindset coach. Mind right, money right, legacy locked in.
Guys, this is not your average financial podcast. We're breaking down money myths, mindset traps, and economic game plans.
We keep it real, raw, and relevant, from micro money moves to macro financial shifts.
This is a 7 Cents podcast where your mind meets your money. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the 7 Cents Show. I'm your host, Mike Macklin, here with Rob Lee Simmons. Today, we got a banger for you today.
Yeah, buddy.
I wanted to talk about something very personal to me. Now, I'm going to tell you before I start, what I'm about to talk about is probably going to make some people mad. Y'all have some mixed feelings. Me and Rob talked about it a little bit. Those were the exact words he used, is mixed feelings. He said, I have mixed feelings about this. But my thought is, hey, listen, if we're going to talk to you, we're going to talk to you about something that I want you thinking. That's just my philosophy. So anyway, let me start this out with a story. I want to talk about how Money Mike became Money Mike. And I'll start at my high school. I got to my senior year in high school, and my mom sat me down and she told me something very important, very pivotal in my life. She said, what are you doing next in your life? And the reason I'm asking you this is because I don't have any money to pay for you to go to school. I don't have it. And so you're going to have to figure out what you want to do. So I took that information and I ran with it. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, something got to happen. I'm not about to sit in this house. That was definitely my plan. Like, I'm not sitting here. I was approached by a Army recruiter, and I believe I was the easiest recruit ever, like the easiest. A simple question was asked. He said, hey, listen, we have the option of college. We have the option of this, that, and the third. Would you like to join the military? Yes. That was my question. Yes. Yes, I would. Because in my mind, I'm like, I can get out the house. Somebody going to pay for college. Okay, great. Fast forward, being in the military, it put me around a lot of people. It taught me discipline. It allowed me to grow up. You know what I'm saying? I was 17 when I joined the military. So it allowed me to grow up. And the biggest takeaway that I took from that is I was able to do something for myself, and it didn't affect my family. I didn't have to pull anybody down with me to try to get myself to a better place. And so with that story, this is what brings us into today's topic. And the topic, is it the parents' responsibility to send their children to college, or should that responsibility be more so on the child? So let's talk a little bit about that today. Yeah. We're gonna let you, because you say you had mixed feelings. So talk to me about where you at with this.
We gonna ruffle some feathers, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? There's a saying that says, hard times build strong people. Strong people then create easier times for their children. Those easier times will then create hard times for their people. And in a sense, we just continue this wheel of running. So this is where I didn't disagree with you, because my wife initially said, when I said, hey, we should not be investing into our kids' college. And she said, why do you believe that? I said, because they don't have any level of struggle. Well, her question was, why do they have to struggle? And my thought was, if you lived in the sunshine your whole damn life, right? And then it started to rain and you never experienced the rain, and you look around and everybody got an umbrella, where was your experience to deal with that situation? I'm not saying that you have to struggle, but struggle ain't never hurt nobody, because it'll give you at least enough tools to say, I probably should have an umbrella. But now you walk around in rain, everybody got an umbrella because you never experienced rain before. And I believe that, but I also believe there are certain people with certain personalities that don't have to deal with struggle because they know how to get it. They just naturally out of the mud are hustlers, and everybody don't have that. Do I believe it's situational? Absolutely. Do I believe that there's an issue in the way our cultures are built? Percent. So let's talk about this from a cultural perspective, right? Okay. American culture, and which is American culture, and the other thing that we'll talk about a few other cultures, right? But American culture is you go to school, and this is back in from, we'll probably even say 1900s to up to about 2000, because statistically from 2000 to 2019 is where I would talk about the differences in what we perceive to be the American culture, the American way, and the way things are
Gotcha.
supposed to be done. 1900s to about 1900s to 2000s, that 100-year span, to go to school, go to college, get a good job, have that job pay off your school if you have student loans. If not, you're putting in a position to live comfortably and then retire at 65. That retire at 65 shit started fading away around the 80s, going into the 90s. So people are not retiring comfortably. If you want to talk about a financial perspective, we talk about 401ks, and a 401k off of 5% began because we never accounted for almost 40 years of inflation. Still pitching this is that off of 5% of your income from the age of 22 all the way to 65 plus Social Security was substantially enough money to retire from. Now, as inflation rates begin to be higher, and now I feel like I'm nerding out, but I hope y'all hear me. I hope y'all hear me. I'm nerding out, but I
Please
hope
listen.
y'all hear me. As inflation started to rise over that time, there was never any education and compensating for that in a retirement plan, right? So now between 1990s and the 2000s, now we didn't get to 2000 and beyond yet. That number averaged out to be about 8 to 10%, right? Where we are now, the realistic, and then when I say 8 to 10%, meaning that you need to be saving 8 to 10% of your income and put it into either a 401k or IRA, a simple or a simp, to get a return on your retirement investment, right? Where you can live comfortably, 8, 9, 10%. Now in the days that we're living in, now we're talking about 15 to 20%, meaning that 20% of the money I make, I need to save and invest, and it needs to be gaining something in order to at least retire. And now the retirement number is moved back from 67, and probably in another 10 years, it'll probably be 70 while we got
I
these
believe that.
Walmart workers. My point in this is during this time of huge inflation, there's never been more shift in cost than college education from 2000 to 2019, meaning that inflation grew, the amount that we were paying for and saving for our kids grew, but the amount that we were saving never did. And so I can absolutely agree that education for children in middle class American culture, and we'll say it that way, middle class American culture has shifted so dynamically that now it don't make fucking sense. It doesn't even make sense. We're talking, I always say D1 schools, we're talking, and this depending on if it's a state school or a private school, anywhere from $60,000 to $120,000 put in to educate our kids. And it's a gross number considering the fact that most of these kids are going to come out making anywhere between $50,000 and $70,000 a year, and then probably starting a family if they fast coming out of college or within the next 4 years. This is not accounting for it. Now, again, I hate going down a rabbit hole. The fact that if they're women and they believe in building families, and then how now they're on a biological time clock to pay off these student loans and to start a family and still work. The times have changed, and we haven't discussed changing with the times. I think it is very mixed, and I hate to be on like both sides of the fence because other cultures, we'll get into other cultures a little bit later, but other cultures, they do this a little bit differently. Because at the end of the day, as a financial, and I don't want to say guru, because I know way more than enough to get me by, and
Oh,
everybody's
absolutely.
situation is different. But what the big number one question, actually, there's always two questions. What are you investing in and why? If you can't answer those two questions, any aspect, then you're probably investing into the wrong thing.
I would agree. And I'm going to go a little further with that as well. We talked about the cultural thing. I want to talk about the pressure from society that's placed on this. A lot of people do this just because they feel like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. One of the biggest things that I hear, and this is right out of people's mouth. This ain't me making this up. This is exactly what I hear. I struggled, so I don't want my kids to struggle. And so many people use that statement as a crutch. Listen, y'all, I told y'all this was going to be a show. So I feel like this is a crutch for a lot of us out here. Now, even going further into what Rob said, Rob's talking about the rising cost of college, And I heard him mention student loans. Most people haven't even paid their own student loans off yet.
Facts.
So how in the HELL are you going to make that problem worse by now you adding your kids' student loans onto that? Like you're going to take out another loan so that your kids can go and do the same thing that you just did.
And make the same funky ass 70,000
Make the same, exactly. The numbers, the math ain't mathing, folks.
at all.
It's just not mathing. And that's what really bothers me about it. And that's why we're doing this show. We want to attack these societal obligations or these pushes to do something that just doesn't make logical sense. And again, I'm arguing with this from my side of it. This is how I feel. If somebody feels different, by all means, hey, look, there's a comment box down there. There's some, you can put whatever you want in there.
Hey.
Talk to me. Talk to me about it. This is how I feel. But to me, I've heard this out of so many people's mouth, is that I don't want my kids to struggle, so I'll deal with it. But I talked about this in another show too. It's like, okay, if you're not together, how you think you're going to get them kids together? So you just making your own problems worse. And think about what happens. In the back of your mind, you're going to start resenting them for that. Whether you want to admit it or not, you're going to resent them for that. You're going to start blaming them. Oh, if it wasn't for these kids, I wouldn't have all this debt. I wouldn't have
crazy.
But you did it. You had those kids. You made that decision, and you let a societal pressure put you in that position. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if y'all didn't say this. And again, down in the comments, if you've never said, I don't want my kids to struggle like I did. I've said it. Look, I'm not exempt from it. I've said it myself. I've tried to shield my child from a lot of things that I probably should have let her go ahead and take on. And that is the core of where I'm coming from with this, is that I don't feel like it helps you or it helps the child when you decide to take on that problem. And we'll get into some other things, but I really wanted to piggyback off what Rob said as far as the cultural aspect of it, or for me, how society looks at this is you have to do this. You have to send your kids to college or you're a bad parent. And I just don't agree with that. I don't. My mom didn't send me to college and I turned out fine.
Man, this is really good. This is really good because this allows me to do my shameless plug. Go to yourmoneygoat.com/bookings and we can talk about it, do a financial audit and have this conversation. But I believe that this is one of those things that is simply person to person situation, right? We talk about American culture. Now I kind of want to shift to other cultures. And this is just from my personal experience. I have a lot of mentors. One of my mentors, actually I have a couple of mentors that are Jewish and studying the Jewish culture. And the Jewish culture is really about community and networking. And a lot of that isn't in everyone's culture, especially Black American culture. Now we're building it. But let me get this out the way, right? Dear Black people, dear American Black people, don't feel bad about your culture and don't feel like you have to catch up now because you are racing a race that is not fair. These other cultures that we compare ourselves to have been around for thousands of years, and your culture realistically is about, we'll say 450 years old, but the culture that you're building now is relatively about 80 years old, and it's still evolving and developing. So these other cultures, you have blueprints for them, but don't feel bad that you're not running a good race because you behind. And it's okay because we're getting there. Now, in these cultures of community, what happens is that education is an investment, because if I have Robert Sr., who is a lawyer, my investment into Robert Sr.'s education is an investment into my legacy, because all of the Simmons family would have been lawyers who went to Harvard, Yale, Cornell, and no matter how dumb or smart he is, he's the successor to our legacy. And this could be many kids within that tight-knit community, but we are investing into our business. So that investment is a little bit different, but all cultures aren't built the same. So let's jump back into our culture, or my culture, Black culture. We have been taught to, now hear me out, we have been taught to go to school. If you do good in school, go to college. If you didn't do good in school, go to trade school or do something else. 95% of y'all, I mean, not, my tongue get too slick sometimes. I was about to start talking shit. 90% of y'all either gonna do a side job or security. This ain't no shot at your hustle. This is the fact that you think that this fuck is personal. You think that because you didn't go the good old American way route, that you went to school and then you're supposed to go to college and you didn't go to college, and now you're just going to do this thing for 30, 40 years and it's going to be okay. We aren't taught the other approaches and avenues. And then also, we got to remember at that part of the first part, you were taught to go to school. Let's talk about history. They give y'all the shittiest books, the shittiest schools. They give y'all teachers with 40 kids to a class. They allow weapons in your schools. They put drugs in your community. The race is not fair, right? And so your kids do have this struggle, but you also have this struggle. What we're ignoring is the other tools that exist. And I would say the other tools being financial literacy, the ability to have a trade. A trade is, fuck it, hot take. A trade is more important than a college degree. There, I fucking
Thank
said
you
it.
for saying that. Thank you for saying that. I was waiting for you. I
I
was
said
sitting
it.
here like on the edge of my seat. Please say it. Please say it.
Oh, fuck
Yes.
it. I said it. A trade
Yes.
is more important than a college degree because you have built and developed a skill that will never go away. And I will even give you one fucking better. A person with a business degree in America may or may not be able to take that business degree to any other country. A person that can fix plumbing and pipes can go any fucking where in this world and become a king, because go to a fucking country that has no fucking plumbing, become a fucking king. Go
And I'm
somewhere where you're building house structures, construction. I will say this is another thing that you don't fucking need a degree for, and it's a trade, but you do need a certification in America. But imagine what that certification would get you around the world. General contracting. We don't have enough general contractors, and general contractors are really the overseer or the project managers of building houses and commercial buildings and things like that. They contract out. Man, I'm dropping too much gems right now. Get on my plug and we can talk. I say all of that to say, to just back up the fact that it's okay to invest in your kids, but invest in it wisely. Invest in it wisely, because again, where I started, what am I investing in and why am I investing in this? What is my return? What am I getting out of this? Outside of my kids don't have to struggle no more. Your kids gonna struggle regardless of what you think, right? Everybody has struggle. The millionaires, the billionaires, the quadrillionaires have this level of struggle. Now, Mike, if you allow me to cook for 2 more minutes and I'll give you the mic back.
go ahead and sizzle, bro. Do your thing, man.
Told you. I like to nerd out a lot.
I know it's all good, man. Go ahead and cook, man.
The biggest thing, if you don't want your kid to struggle, is to build and develop a financial plan for them after they are at least 25. So we talk about, let's go into anatomy a little bit. The brain doesn't fully develop until you're about 22 to 25. That's why people say, hey, the drinking age of 21 is a little bit fucked up, especially around the world, because the alcohol affects your brain and your brain isn't fully developed till you're about 22 to 25. That bringing me to the insight is, if your brain's not fully developed at 22, 25, and you're trying to set up a 22, 25-year-old to be successful, you're still fucking wrong. It happens. We have 22, 25-year-olds now in this culture that do YouTube, TikTok, but their brains still aren't fully developed. So I'm going to do some stuff about this. This might be the next one. We're going to have some good conversation.
We're going to have a good time. Trust me. I already see it.
Yeah. But like, even in being successful, these people don't have a fucking financial plan. So just because they drive Maseratis and have big houses and giraffes in their backyard doesn't mean that they sat down with a financial professional and they told them that shit was a good idea. Right. Even with that, there's still a level of education that needs to go with that. But even with the education is also a level of maturity to make the right decisions. Going back to what I said, if you want to set your kids up to not struggle, you're only going to be able to, let me not use that definite word only. My opinion is you should do this after they're 25, after they've dealt with most of their shit and they start looking at 30. Oh shit, 30's around the corner is when people wheels get to turning. So that's why you see when people is in their maturation period, is really about 28, 34 is when they're starting to put it together. And when they're coasting into 40, that's when you start to see people got it. When you start seeing people develop from 6 figures to 7 figures, is around that 42, 43, 45 range. When you go out, yeah, and most of these guys are between 45 and 50. Reason is that's just a human maturation period of maturity. Say all of that to say, the setup is, if you're going to save money for your kids, you can either build them an IRA or even there's a few other accounts. Just depends on who you are. So get with me. And I'll also like to say, this is not financial advice. Everything that I'm saying is all educational purpose. If you want to see me for financial advice, you're going to have to pay me. And then we can agree that I fucked up your life. So if you're listening to me right now and you do this, I am not responsible. You can use
Disclaimer.
Right, exactly. Got to get a disclaimer. You can use a number of different financial tools to save for your kid until they reach that maturation period. Even in my trust and my will and trust, if something happens to me, my kids is going to be decently taken care of based off of the governing body of my trust, but they're not getting the funky monkey chunky because they are trust fund babies. Y'all not getting the funky monkey chunky until the age of 25. Hey, this large amount will be distributed at the age of 25. Now, hear me out. They're getting like a chunk of money just to be good, but it's a couple of dollars. And the reason I don't give these definite numbers, I ain't trying to get nobody to offer me today.
Look, I get it. I don't have anything. Look,
Yeah.
let me tell it. I don't have nothing.
What's going to happen is over this time, you will be able to give them $10,000 this year, $10,000 next year, pay them incrementally up until they're 30. And then when they're 30, here's enough money to buy a fucking house. Because now you got to figure it out, or you probably got a family. You took that money, you invested it, you did something right with it. But now you're giving it to a mature adult to do something, and that part is going to grow your legacy. You give that shit to a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 22-year-old, they about to throw some D's on that bitch and party and drink and smoke it out unless they are educated. But again, that part comes with culture. But kids are going to be kids. Kids are still in a learning phase where they're learning how to be adults. So the same way that your kids was drawn, the 3-year-old was drawn on the wall and pissing in the hallways and touching the stove when they shouldn't be, is the same thing they're going to do between that 19 and 22-year-old. Just they're doing it as adults because they're learning a new thing as an adult. And so they're going to do stupid stuff. They're going to do stupid stuff. And it's unavoidable because that's just who kids are. And then they are dumb and horny. All you can do is
combination.
It's a horrible combination. And so all you can do is hope for the best and teach them the most. But if you want to do that, set up a financial plan to kick them out, giving them a kickback at 25 to 30. Don't invest into their school, especially if that schooling isn't bringing their ass back into your job to build your business back up. So it's not good investment from my standpoint. What you think?
All right. So I like what you said because it made me think about some other things while you were saying that. I want to talk about the alternatives. Okay. Let's talk about what you could do as opposed to, hey, I'm going to put myself into even more debt, junior or little baby girl. This is what I would do. This are my thoughts on it. The first thing that you need to do is you need to introduce other options to your children. And Rob talked about this a little bit already. You don't necessarily have to go to college. There's trade schools, there's certifications. And when I tell you that the cost of a trade school or certification versus a 4-year, 8-year, 12-year doctor degree, like some of y'all gonna go to, is astronomically different. Like I know certifications that are a couple $100 or a trade school that might be like $1,000 to go to. And the good thing with these schools, a lot of times, is what they also do is they put you in front of employers to where now not only do you got the school and you got the credential, now you got that recommendation or that whatever they give you to put you in front of somebody that says, hey, listen, this person knows what they're doing. Let's get them in the game. So what that does for you is it puts you in a position where, one, you as the parent have spent incrementally less, like a lot less, for one, if you insist on doing this. If you just, I don't care what you said, Mike, I'm going to take care of my babies. I'm going to put money in it. If that's what you want to do, I would suggest do that. And the reason I say that is what Rob said as well. Them kids, they not there yet. They just not there yet. They cannot handle that kind of bread. And going even deeper into that, this is where we as parents need to be teaching children more financial literacy as well. The children are not being taught this. You throwing them out amongst the wolves. So now I play the devil's advocate and say, okay, let's say you do take care of them and send them out there and they know nothing about life. They know nothing. Like they have no experience. They ain't had no struggles, no nothing. What you think gonna happen to them when they get out there? Life is gonna beat the crap out of them. Yeah. Life is gonna beat the crap out of them. And guess what? The very struggle that you tried to keep your kid away from is gonna come full circle.
You created
your argument of don't want my kids to struggle like I did. Listen, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, your kid's gonna struggle regardless. So you putting yourself in a financial bind using "I don't want my kids to struggle" as your argument, I'm sorry. I can't get with it. I just cannot. And I'm telling you this again. This is personal experience. My life went a lot better because my mom said, "Hey, look, go on out there and make something for yourself, son. Get out there and get after it." But again, the cheaper alternatives, we got to start thinking about stuff like that. In America, I think the problem is we've devalued trades. The apprentice programs, a lot of those have gone away. We're pushing these kids into office jobs. Now, these office jobs don't give you any kind of real skill set, in my opinion. You basically sitting in front of a desk, punching in numbers or typing or whatever it is that a lot of these office jobs do. I've worked an office job. That's how I know. So this is not me just making up something. I've worked an office job, and you're literally sitting in there for hours on end. And you're not really learning anything. You're not really being challenged. It's just you come in and do something. You're part of a bigger system. So you're not learning independent thought. You're not learning to build something from the bottom. You're learning basically to come into somebody else's organization and make their dream come true.
Preach.
Going to a trade school, and Rob touched on this as well, so I'm gonna give credit where it came from, but Rob touched on this as well. You go to a trade school, you go to a certification, that skill set cannot be taken from you. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these degrees, they become obsolete after 4 years. You learn something, and 4 years later, that's not even how they do it anymore. Versus a trade school, this is what they're doing right now. So when you get out there, you have a skill that you can actually use. And like he said, you can go somewhere else. You don't even have to stay in America if you don't want to. Go somewhere else where they don't have pipes in the ground or they don't have any houses built up. Go in there and build them houses. Go in there and create an irrigation system, a plumbing system, electrical system, all that different stuff. All the skills that the American culture is shitting on right now. And now you look like a bum if you're a plumber or if you're an electrician or you're all these people. I have a lot of respect for these people in these trades personally. Now, I'm not crapping on people that work office jobs. If you want to work office job, by all means. If that's what you like doing, cool. But what I'm saying is it's a lot less expensive. It's a lot less time. And you learn something that's relevant to the times. So if I were the parent looking to the future and I had a little Johnny or a little Janet, I would say, okay, listen, especially in the middle class where you don't have that kind of money. This would be real. Middle class people don't typically have that kind of money. You don't have $100,000 just to shell out in one city. You're going to have student loans and you're going to have whatever. But that is what I would do. Or I didn't say it. Why not get your kid looking at financial aid, looking at different stuff like that to where, okay, place the ownership on the child. Hey, listen, this is your future. As your parent, it's my job to make sure you don't die between the age of 0 and 18 because you're under my roof. You're my responsibility. But once I send you out into the world, you're going to have to learn how to navigate this stuff. So we need to start now. I will start as somewhere like when you first get into high school is okay. So as not to put everything on you at once, let's incrementally kind of learn about these things. Okay, let's talk about financial aid a little bit. Let's talk about the cost of in-state versus out-of-state. Let's talk about how you plan on funding that. Let's talk about after you leave, where do you want to work and how much is that job going to pay you versus how much debt do you have? Because if it's $200,000 of student loans versus a $30,000 job, you in for a rough couple years. So I want to prepare you for this. And as parents, that is our real, if you want to prevent your child from struggling, you got to put them through that kind of stuff to prepare their mind for it. Rob said, if your kid just sat in the sun forever, now all of a sudden it's raining over here, they have no idea what to do. So we have to do a better job of preparing children for the rough side instead of trying to hide them from it. And that is going to be my overarching thought of this. We're spending too much time trying to shield our children from the real world instead of preparing them for it. That's my thoughts.
So I got two nuggets real quick. One came from, again, I say I have a lot of mentors. One of my mentors is a tenured professor, and we talk about the struggles of college education, right? Generally in America, but across the world, right? But one of the scopes is, and this is just free chicken for everybody. Just think about what your kids are learning in school. This is the conversation that we have. There are certain things, there are certain, what do we call them? Categories of education like tech, where the innovation changes every day. But it's not just tech, it's business and sports. And I'm just trying to think. It's a lot of it's a lot. It's a lot. So let's talk about the realness of what's happening, right? So a school curriculum, by the time you get the school curriculum, it was just designated in 2025. But realistically, it takes about 5 to 7 years to get a curriculum approved. So by the time you got your book that says copyright 2025, that book already is about 6 years old of education is already 6 years old. And then your child went through school and they say they graduated as a senior using this same curriculum. That means by the time they graduated, everything that they learn is 10 years old. 10 years old. What you're investing in is education that's 10 years old, or you can just, and Mike said this in our conversation, and I can't recall if this happened during the live recording of this conversation. Scholarships. Scholarships are underutilized in everywhere. In fact, my wife developed a scholarship and we tried to canvas a HBCU to give it away. No applicants, zero applicants. If we'd have got one applicant, they would have got paid. Zero applicants. And so scholarships are so underutilized that it is insane. And that brings me to the point where kids are so okay with having what they have that they won't even put in a little bit of work to get a little more. It's
Say
crazy.
the right word, Rob. Say the right word. Come on. It starts with L, ends with Y. He don't want to be the bad guy. I'm gonna say it.
Yeah,
Y'all being lazy.
Y'all fucking lazy.
They are being lazy.
It's a different time today. And let me not bash a generation, because it's been generation has some traits that we've all realized, and some of it isn't lazy. Some of it is genuinely, I'm not fucking doing this shit because it doesn't make sense. That's why kids like the previous generation, they ask why all the time. Hey, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And the next generation after that was like, I can clearly see that you're not going to tell me why. And this shit looks stupid. I'm just not going to do it. But it does take a little bit of education to say, but it takes a level of education to say, hey, this money isn't free because it's a scholarship. You have to write a couple fucking pages, and then, you can put it towards school. And if your school's paid for, you got some lunch money. I don't understand with now you got that tool, and it's not just the kids, because 90% of people that I deal with are like this. Like 10% of people will go get that shit. And I don't think it's laziness. Hear me out. For younger people, maybe. But for everybody else, it's a fear of success.
I was going to say, you know what? Maybe I should clean that up, because not for the political correctness of it, but for more accuracy. I'm going to let you off the hook just a little bit. Just a little bit. I think it goes into, and it's funny because until Rob just mentioned it, I got it written down, but I didn't think of that. And maybe a lot of times we get into these positions where we just don't think of that. And I'm going to give y'all that one. I'm going to give y'all that. That's stretching really far. I'm going to give y'all that. Maybe y'all didn't think of it. But now that it's out there, we have to put ourselves in front of more information. I'm going to use African Americans as a prime example. A lot of times we don't put ourselves in front of enough information. We're not necessarily being given a lot of information to begin with. However, sometimes you got to take that extra step and get out there and find it. This is where reading comes into play. Sure. We got to read a little bit more, people, because I'm telling you, and not to sound no kind of way, but I've heard a saying many times in my life that if you want to hide something, especially from people of color, all you got to do is put it in a book. So I'm saying to my people, we got to read more, because I'll give you that maybe we don't have access to as much information as our brothers and sisters of other races. However, we can't keep leaning on that. We can't keep using that excuse as why we can't survive and thrive. Just like the statement of, I don't want my kids to struggle because I did. I don't know is no longer a valid reason why you can't get this, that, and the third done. And that is just my opinion. Again, y'all can put all the mean comments about Mike, you're a horrible person for saying this. Drop it down there by all means, because guess what? You're still engaging, and that's what we want. We want the conversation. We want the smoke. So by all means, write whatever you got to write about what I had to say, but I pray humbly that it helps somebody. It may be a little brash how I'm saying it, but sometimes I feel like you got to piss some people off to get them to move. That's just how it is.
100%. Got a light of fire. Hey, before we close out, I do want to say this, and this is probably just, again, I love these conversations that we're having, but this is a topic for another day. But the idea, and we talked about this on a previous episode, but the idea of sunken cost fallacy plays a part in that fear of success and fear of failure, right? Because sometimes people don't, and again, it's just a human measurement. Sometimes people don't want to, I actually try to avoid the sunken cost fallacy before they get into something. So they won't do it because their fear is I will put too much time in this and not get anything out. And then they have other areas of their lives where they're locked into something that they can't get out of that doesn't have value. So they have that fear of the sunken cost fallacy, even though they're operating in it. But it's another cognitive bias, and I'll find it, give you the name of it, and we'll talk about it on a different episode. Yeah, let's wrap this thing up, man.
Okay, so to wrap this up, I'm gonna pose a question to everybody that's watching right now. After hearing everything, what are your thoughts? Honestly, like, what do you really feel like after hearing Rob talked a little bit of one side, I've talked a little bit of one side of it. So I think we've put out a fair balance of, okay, the arguments that could be placed one side or the other, but we want to hear your thoughts. We want to know what you think about this, or should we expound more on this on another show? Give us your thoughts on this. But what I'll say to this is, and I'm going to steal Rob's quote that he said earlier, hard times make strong people. Strong people make easy times, make weak people. Weak people make hard times. So everything we've talking about goes along that line. So the level of strength that you give your children is going to determine how easy or how difficult their times are. So again, that struggle that you are so desperately trying to keep your children from, it's going to come one way or the other. The question is, which struggle do we want to put in front of our kids? That's what I'm going to close with today.
Preach. Hey, again, thank y'all for joining the show. Definitely check out the next episode. We're going to be bringing some more fire. 7th Sense, we out.
It's your boy Money Mike, the financial Thanos, snapping one myth at a time and leaving no financial lives standing.
And I'm Coach RL, mind right, money right, legacy locked in. If today's episode gave you game, make sure you rate, review, and share it with someone.
Hey, follow us on all platforms and keep the conversation going, guys. DM us your questions, your myths, and your money wins.
Until next time, think deeper, move smarter, and keep building.
This is the 7th Sense Podcast. We out.